Hi guys, this is Lisa, an occupational therapist specialized in Padawan therapy, master degree in autism spectrum disorder, and like every Wednesday, this is Chat with Lisa. So basically, I connect here to chat with you, to connect a little bit with you, answer your questions if you have any, and basically to bring a little bit more of awareness about what is occupational therapy, how we work, what do we do, know with who we work, etc., etc. So today's topic, because everyone's day is a little bit different, but as you can see, every time that I am connecting and so on, I'm going to leave the video in my YouTube channel, so you can rewatch it, etc., take some notes, etc. Obviously, I always am super thankful for your following and subscribing to the channel and connecting and just continue having interest in what we are doing here and what I'm doing. The idea of this channel is basically to bring a little bit of awareness and support for those parents, okay, for those parents that are in need, no, and maybe not all the parents have the access and the possibility to have an occupational therapist. Now, this is something that it's the reality. I work with parents and I carry online lessons around the world. Not every parent has or managed to find a therapist with who they are happy, so or maybe satisfied. I work with children with special needs with different ages, so obviously it's a little bit, my topics are always different, no, but I have to say from the beginning that I thank to all of you for those who support, who subscribes, who follows, who shares. You can follow me on social media, etc. Now I'm also on Twitch. So trying to bring a little bit of awareness. Hello. And trying to bring a little bit of different topics and interest, because, well, children with special needs are all different, and the parents of children with special needs have different needs and different questions and different situations. So it's nice when you can have a therapist with who you can actually talk and discuss things, and especially if you are having some struggles. As you can see, the title of today is Sensory Processing Activities for Children. Now, occupational therapists, we are not only specialized in pediatrics, but my specialization goes into pediatrics. So I am most of the time will be talking about kids. So if you have any questions about, the topics that we are covering here or the activities that we are talking, and you have no idea, or you agree or disagree or whatever, please stop me, ask me a question, and we continue. Okay, like I said, I much appreciate the fact that you support this channel and support Panacea Therapy Center, which is my clinic. So that's a great reinforcement for me to continue doing what I'm doing, and to continue improving. So, like I said before, today's topic is about sensory processing activities. Now, for those who maybe might not know what is sensory processing, our body, it's okay, thank you for your interest. Our body is made from different sensory systems. Okay, so basically it's not just muscles and bones and nerves. We have also sensory systems who takes care of, to give us information about what is surrounding us, right? So if I am seated, if it's the pressure in the chair, if it's the smell of the flowers, if it's the smell of the food, if it's maybe there is music in the background, all the senses that are connected, and they are surrounding us. Our sensory processing, it's made for that purpose, to give us a lot of information so we can be aware, about our balancing, our coordination, our proprioception, which means pressure, no, and also through touch, through vision, through smell, through taste, etc., etc. So basically, we are having all this information around us, and the sensory system makes that information go through our nerve system, and then this nerve system asks us to or calm down, react, no, or maybe it's if we smell a perfume, we are getting a little bit more overwhelmed about it, or maybe we calm down, or maybe if we listen music, we can be a little bit more excited about it, or maybe we can actually feel like to sleep because we are too relaxed, etc., etc. So basically, this is the sensory systems, and we have a lot of them. And today we are going to talk about sensory processing activities. So basically, activities that can work for children who are not only in autism spectrum disorder, but also ADHD, sensory processing disorder, dyspraxia, neurological disorders, etc., etc. So this is not only referred to kids who struggles with sensory processing disorder, okay? Which is, there is a difficulty called sensory processing disorder. I'm sorry, Eugenio Coppola. Maybe this is not the topic that you wish to hear. I know, but like I said before, this is my channel. My channel it's about that. I always go live on Wednesdays to talk a little bit about my profession. So I'm sorry that maybe it's not that interesting, but this is made for parents and for therapists and educators who might find it interesting and different a little bit than others' lives, no? So I continue. In sensory processing disorder, in sensory processing in general, what is important is to make sure that your occupational therapist, first thing first, maybe provides you a sensory profile questionnaire, which this is a typical questionnaire that you have to fill in, you have to answer the questions, and then the occupational therapist will give you a feedback about it. And the occupational therapist will be able to identify in which areas, which systems of your kids are not working properly, or maybe they are responding in a different ways than others. So you will have kids who are maybe overwhelmed with tactile or visual or vestibular system, and then you will have kids who are underwhelmed. So they will basically need a lot of exposure and a lot of activities in order for them to actually notice the sensory input. Right? So I prepared a list of different activities that they could actually help you. Okay, they could actually help you. They are very easy to do. They are easy to make at home. Like I said, the idea here it's not to provide something that it's expensive or it's difficult to do, or maybe that you cannot find in a shop or maybe online. The idea is to have something that is practical. Nowadays, a lot of parents have access to internet and so on. So I think it's a nice way also to reuse stuff that we can have at home, and at the same time to use simple things. No, there is no such a need to go for always expensive stuff. The most important here, and this is why I was mentioning sensory processing profile, is that your occupational therapist will tell you exactly which type of activities your kids benefit from. Why? Because, for example, in this list that I prepare here, I'm just going to have a look, sorry, what it is here. I have a list of activities that I would like to discuss with you, but some activities will not be maybe ideal for your child. Now, I don't know who is watching right now or later on this video and so on. If you have questions and you would like to ask me, listen, this activity, it is good for my kid or not or whatever, please feel free. I am all over social media, so it's not like difficult to find me. You can text me, you can email me, and I will be able to help you. The reason why, because sometimes certain activities will excite your child more, and your child will become more overwhelmed, and then you will be like, okay, Lisa suggested me to do weighted pads, but they are not helping me, helping my child, because my child is just all over the place. Yes, because perhaps your child doesn't really need them. Okay, so this is the reason why I started the talk saying that we have different sensory systems, and sensory processing, it's that group, no, of sensory systems, is that ability for in our nervous system to be able to regulate our emotions independently in our exposure. So if it's a tactile system or vestibular or visual or whatever, in order to just be in the right place, regulated. And sometimes that's very difficult, because children with ADHD or children with autism or sensory processing disorder are all over the place. So you say, which activity then I need to apply for my child in order to regulate him? And usually you will go always for the basic ones, which basics means still are good. Okay, so we have the peanut ball, we have the therapy ball, we have the swings, we have the trampolining. Okay, so or trampoline was the same. We have obstacle courses, we have fidget toys. There are plenty of stuff now online. Now, once I will finish this live, I'm going to write in the description a couple of the suggestions that I'm giving, attaching also a YouTube video, where you can get some ideas of each activity, how to do it, in case if you don't know how to do it. But the idea of doing simple activities that you need, it's a trial thing. Sometimes one activity needs to be repeated 3, 4, 5, 10 times in order for your child to actually react or like it or get used to it. Because not just because your child has sensory difficulties, it's because we have attention difficulties, it's because we are having, because of sensory activities, the kid is not paying attention in that moment, and or basically is just like literally disconnecting and focusing on something else. So then it's complicated to know if the activity is working or is not working. It is working because it's a good sensory activity for my child, or because my child maybe it's in a good mood, basically it's in a good mood and today is the day, but tomorrow I do the same activity and it's not anymore there, which happens a lot as well. Okay, this is the reason why in therapy we always suggest to parents to be consistent, don't give up. Consistency is important, repetition is important. There is no need for you to invent every single day a new activity. Okay, the idea of today is just provide you 10 examples, simple examples that you can do, and at the same time, you can be changing. You don't have to do them 10 at the same day, in the same day. You can be doing them, in selective days. Depends how is your routine, how is your kid working, etc., etc. So the first activity that I would like to propose is the sensory beans with rice or beans. So the sensory beans are very easy to do. You can get anything that can be closed and made of texture. Could be a bag or whatever, and we can put the rice, we can put beans. We can be putting lentils, whatever you have, maybe small pasta, whatever you have at home. Sensory beans are very nice because sometimes we use a lot of fidget toys, but the fidget toys, they still have the same touch, not the same way of texture. However, if you prepare a sensory bean made from rice or small pasta, or for example lentils, like I said, or even beans, it provides not just calming effect. Most of the time it's a calming effect, okay, but it's also you work on tactile system, so you're stimulating over there two different systems, which are very good. You can like I said, you can take a bag, you can take a container. For example, in Panacea Therapy Center, we have containers where you just have basic container, plastic container. We put rice over there. We put a couple of things inside so the kid can be maybe playing with it, or maybe like cups. tipo pouring rice from one cup to another, etc. That's basically the idea. Many times kids just wants to stay with the rice, just moving fidgeting with the rice, and that is a simple activity that already works on calming strategies. Sometimes they get very excited with the rice and they start, like having this excitement in their face. This is the momentum when you can say, like, okay, maybe we can place small toys inside of the rice, make them hiding and playing with them, etc. Maybe we can be doing some writing. We can work on letter formation, number formation. You can be doing like really a lot of different things. You can do shapes. If you see that your child is very excited, but you want to continue giving a try with the sensory beans, I will definitely then plan an activity with the container of rice or pasta or lentils or whatever you have. If you want just to see his or her response, the answer to this activity, then I will definitely let it a little bit, there. So you prepare your container, you put a little bit of rice, etc., and you see what the child does, if the child is actually super active or not. Like I said, most of the time it is a calming activity. It's not to get overwhelmed or super excited, but because we are all different and sensory systems are all different, I cannot tell you that this is just to calm, because sometimes this activity actually will make the kid a little bit more excited and more active than usual. Okay. You can practice also, like I said, you can place different toys, you can work on fine motor skills, picking up, the rice or the pasta, working on the pencil grip, so pincer. So it's totally up to you. The second activity that's very easy, and this I think all the parents tried, it's Play-Doh or clay. Now, Play-Doh, we use therapeutic putty, which is a little bit more, I will say, less messy than Play-Doh or clay, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter from which country you are and where are you living. If you have Play-Doh, we use Play-Doh. If you can do homemade Play-Doh, which is also very interesting, you can do homemade Play-Doh. That's a little bit more tricky, because if the kid decide to try it, they can actually eat it because it's made of sugar. So I will say it depends on your child. Just be careful, okay? The same with the rice and the container with the pasta. Obviously, all the suggestions that I'm giving you, we have to make sure that we know our kids, we know their limits, and sometimes we can have a kid tasting the pasta or tasting the rice, even if it's raw. And that is something that you have to be aware, okay? So just be always careful. With the Play-Doh and the clay, it's very interesting because you can, first of all, you can do your homemade one. You can even do it with the kid if you feel that the child is interested in doing such activity with you. But otherwise, you can get any Play-Doh. If you know what is therapeutic putty, I highly suggest it more than the Play-Doh or clay. Okay, you can be squeezing it, you can be rolling it, you can make shapes, you can make numbers, you can be pressing, working on fine motor skills, using different balls, so you can be working on body awareness as well. You can just create small balls and do pinching with the fingers. Okay, so if the therapeutic putty is here, you can be doing pinching, etc. There are a lot of plenty of things that you can be doing. If you have scissors and you trust your kid, you can roll the therapeutic putty and cut with the scissors, like making a roll, like a sausage, and you cut it. There are plenty of stuff that you can be doing. The only thing, you have to know your kid. Now, therapeutic putty, most of the time, it is something Play-Doh, therapeutic putty or clay. Most of the time, it's something also to regulate, to help you to regulate, to calm down before any other handwriting activity. So you have to make sure that this is not an activity that you open the Play-Doh, you give a Play-Doh to the kid and you ask him basically sit down and enjoy yourself with the Play-Doh. Because most of the time it will end up on the floor, in his mouth or her mouth or whatever. And it's a little bit more dangerous. I will definitely suggest you to use this sensory processing activity Only when you feel like the child is a little bit overwhelmed, you want to regulate him because you want him to focus, because it's homework time, etc. And you want to regulate him. So you take your Play-Doh, your therapeutic party, you work a little bit, etc. And do you continue? So there is no, you don't have to stay. It's not an activity the same like with the rice, with the sensory beans. It's not an activity that you want to stay 30 minutes, 1 hour doing it, because it gets boring. It's a sensory activity that will help you to improve certain regulation in that moment that you want, okay? But it's not an activity that you can be doing it for, I don't know, like I said before, 20, 30 minutes. So, hi, what do you do if the child is wanting to finger or hand movement with rice again and again? Uh-huh. So, how do you take them out of the rice play even when the child doesn't feel like, I guess you wanted to say, do we have to distract them to do something else or take them out? So thank you for the question. That's a very good question. Like I said before with the rice beans. So with the rice happens two things. You will have kids who will not want to touch them. Okay, so they will look to the container, they will say, okay, this is not for me. And you literally need to put the hand on the rice. And I suggest you to do that. If you see that your child is under responsive and doesn't want to actually go for it, I will definitely guide the kids and I go with the child, and we play for 2 minutes and then you continue in another activity, no problem. If it's the situation of you while some that the child is really into the sensory bean and he really, really likes it, I will then put out a timer. I will use counting as a strategy to know that we start and we finish. So, for example, the child is playing, he's getting super excited, and then you say, okay, we're going to finish. I will be counting till 20 and then we finish. And you count till 20 and then finish. Once you communicate to the kid that there is a time frame, then you have to make sure that you stop him from doing the activity and you move the activity outside so he doesn't continue. If you don't want to use counting, I will suggest to use a timer. So a little timer, even with a phone, it's okay. So the child can actually see the time frame, and say, okay, I have 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Even if you think that he doesn't know what it is, don't worry. After a couple of repetitions, he will understand the use of the timer. Otherwise, because what happens sometimes is that the kid is very happy with the rice bin, no, or the pasta bin or whatever, and he's playing, and suddenly you come and say, okay, that's it, it's enough, let's go. And this is when we have a tantrum, we have behavior issues, etc., etc. So I strongly suggest you to not to do that. Prevent from doing it. Maximize the fact that the child understands you, that there is going to be a finishing of activity, because you have to get that the child is very excited about the activity. But I will definitely suggest you that if you see that he is staying 5, 10, 15 minutes and he's getting excited and more excited, etc., or you let him another 5, 10 minutes, okay, and then you replace this activity with something a little bit more calming, okay, or otherwise you just let him be for another maybe 15, 20 minutes. Maybe he is enjoying a lot the rice. It is not an issue. The sensory systems works like that. You have an activity that you like a lot, and your nerve system goes up, 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 and you really are excited, till a moment that it will reach a momentum that it's like, okay, that's it, it's enough, thank you. The next day or the day after, whenever you want to repeat it, the activity starts, excited, but this time, maybe after 2, 3, 4 repetition, it will not need to go here, it will stop here. Okay, because the nerve system already got that big boom of, oh my goodness, my father or mom or my mother let me play with this toy that I really like it for 20, 30, 40 minutes. Now, this I am talking about activities that escalate up to, let's say, 30, 45 minutes. If we have a kid staying 2 hours playing with the same activity, with the same excitement, etc., I definitely not suggest you to do that, because we are talking about 2 hours spending with the same toy, getting exciting, for example, spinning the wheels, or just playing with the rice. It's a very repetitive and very fast movement during 2 hours. It is not something that you want to reinforce. But I'm talking about a time frame up to 45 minutes. I will personally let her explore, enjoy it. But in 2, 3 days, I repeat the activity and I see if the excitement is still the same level of 30, 45 minutes or it's less, because the nervous system tends to do that. We are very excited, we go to the boom 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 boom, and then there is a moment they say, okay, the next day, okay, well, it's like you got enough after 20 minutes. Let's maybe we do something else. This is, I'm talking about the way how the nervous system works. Okay, but again, the usual way is that. So I will definitely use counting. I will use timers. I would maybe calculate for the first time how long it takes him to be in front of the sensory bean, and then how long it takes him to calm down or to change activity by himself, not by you telling him. And if you see that it's in the time frame between 30 to 45 minutes, that's not a problem. I will let him, and then I will still communicate that, okay, it's enough for today. We're going to play something else. If you see that he is staying 1, 2, 3 hours and there is no intentions at all to stop, then definitely I will prepare my activities with a purpose. So we have a sensory bean made of beans or lentils or rice or pasta, like I said before, or we have our Play-Doh, and we are going to play for 30 minutes. And then we are going to stop, and then we have something else. But it's important that the child knows a little bit that there is a schedule, okay? That there is a little bit of a program. There is maybe some verbal instructions, because if the child is enjoying himself and you just come and disturb him, you might have not a nice outcome, because this is when we have actually the tantrums and the behavior difficulties, etc. So I hope I answer you. If you have any other question, please let me know. The third activity that I wanted to propose and to suggest you, it was water play with different temperatures. This is something that is also super cool. Many times we have children who are very extremely sensitive with showering, bathing, etc., etc. So water play, it's always cool. Many kids enjoys water, and they like splashing and stuff. We can put toys, we can put different temperatures, we can have maybe a container with a little bit warm water and cold water, and we can be placing toys from one to another, etc. This also helps them to be a little bit more alert, or at the same time more calm, because water, it's also a very, very good activity for both, for alerting strategies and calming strategies. So I will definitely have this in my bucket list. Then we have sensory bottles or jars. Well, you have a lot of parents extremely creative doing sensory bottles. I tried myself, and to be honest, I it wasn't a bad bad outcome, but I am not that creative, honestly speaking. And sometimes you go for things that are already ready. But I'm going to attach here an idea of how we could do a sensory bottle at home. Basically, you have to have a particular type of gel, and then you can put stuff that you have at home, maybe something that is maybe a little bit more shining, etc., different maybe shapes or stuff. You can put even like wooden beans. There are plenty of ideas, and I can tell you some parents are extremely creative, and that's great. So, however, I will say this, sometimes we don't know how to use them, because we create the sensory bottles and we have the red bottle and the blue bottle and the yellow bottle and the green bottle, and all of this is for regulation purposes, but we don't know when to use them. I will suggest you to do like that. If you don't have a sensory bottle and you would like to do an activity, a messy activity with your kid, this is a perfect idea, because here you work on tactile, you work on regulation, you work on a messy play, you work on following instructions, because there is a way how to do the sensory bottle, and then this sensory bottle can stay there just as a this is the outcome of our activity, or you can use it with maybe, for example, in a calming corner, or if you have a room where you can put the lights down, we can put some music, and you can be using this sensory bottle for him or for her to calm down. Usually it is not an exciting activity, but again, I always say the same, every child is different. But definitely, like, you can put glitter, you can put beads, you can put different type of maybe gels inside, and different colors. So all of this is going to make it a little bit more interesting for the kid, because if you put stars, or like I said, even glitters or whatever, is going to be shining, especially if you have maybe some nice relaxing music, maybe lights around. It will make it a very, very cool and calm activity, usually in a calm way. I almost never had any kid that used a sensory bottle and then got excited about it, okay? Because it's not like uh, there is also the sound of the water every time that the child is moving the bottle, So it is a very, very calming activity. Then we have tactile paths, which could be translated as obstacle courses. Okay, I always say obstacle courses because I think it's more easier to understand, and also more easier to create, because sometimes we say like, okay, tactile paths, and you don't know what you have to put. I don't know. Depends what the child needs. I always suggest to use different type of textures. So if you have, for example, carpets, different type of carpets, okay, maybe soft ones, maybe a little bit more rough, maybe carpets that are with spikes or spiky cushions. Okay, you can call them also spiky cushions, etc. And what we like to do is basically we take all the texture that we can have on the floor, and we make a little obstacle about it, and the child needs to go from one to another. And that's great, because now, for example, I saw some videos, so super creative. They use even sponges, like a sponge that you use for washing dishes, etc. They will create, like, they will put, for example, 6 of them, and the child needs to step on them. Like, really cool and amazing stuff. And they are very easy to do. You can be using stuff that you have at home as well. There is no need for you to buy them, because actually the sensory carpets are a little bit expensive, But yeah, this is also a really cool idea that can be done easily at home, and it helps a lot to regulate. So if the child is a little bit excited, we can be going on this obstacle course made from sensory paths, and we can be maybe staying on each carpet for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You don't need to really run around. Obviously, if you are creating an obstacle course and the child is just passing by, you prepare different textures, no different carpets, and the child is just passing by, forget about any sensory regulation, because the kid will just, not even notice it, because we have kids who are very hyper. So for them, when we talk about kids who are very active and hyper, we need to actually provide that proprioceptive input, that pressure, So in those cases, I suggest, for example, to say, okay, if you see that the child, for example, kids who are tiptoeing, this is also a great activity for them. If you see that your kid is just passing by, then maybe the instruction could be, we have to stay for 20 seconds on each carpet, So like this, the sensory system can get some knowledge and some information, like, oh, this is a little bit spiky, this one is soft, this one is made of cotton, this one is made of sponge, or whatever, So I definitely suggest you to give a little bit of time. And definitely you can use paper, sorry, as well. You can use bubble wrap. Bubble wrap, every kid likes it to do clap clap clap, so definitely this is an activity that also it's great if you can do it barefoot, without socks, without shoes, just barefoot. So like this you get the maximum of it. I even saw on videos who were doing, they were even putting stones, like small stones, obviously not like huge, but they are extremely good, as well, because it is hard, and the child will be like, okay, going from soft to soft, and then you can graduate it, you can go from soft to the more stronger texture. So it's really, really good. And it's like I said, it's easy to make, easy to do. It depends obviously of your space at home, or your interest as well, and your kid, but definitely something that it's nice to have. Now, weighted blanket. Weighted blankets, I suggest them not because they are very much in fashion, because I will say like that in therapy as well, we pass through moments where all the therapists suddenly start suggesting you the same thing. And you're like, okay, I really have to buy it because everybody suggests, but this is where I always say to the parents, you have to see for which purpose you want what you want to buy. Not because it's, trendy or whatever, or you saw it in TikTok or in YouTube or whatever. It's if your child benefits from it, yes or not. It's the same like what happened with chewy tubes and other stuff that I was saying in my other videos, that many times parents goes, they buy like 10 100 things and the child doesn't really need it. So just be careful, okay? With weighted blankets, it's a great tool also for calming strategies. This is the same like the sensory bottle. I don't have any kid that after sensory blanket will get overexcited, honestly speaking, because it's a blanket that it's heavy. You can also have, for example, warm blankets that they can be heat up before, and all of the between the heated blanket or the heavy blanket, etc., and the pressure that it makes on your body, most of the time it's working. It works as a calming strategy, nothing else. Now you have, if you Google it, weighted blanket, you will have a lot of options. Some of them are a little bit expensive, to be honest. So I always suggest that you don't have to go for weighted blanket because it's called weighted blanket. Sometimes if you go and you would like to buy a blanket, some blankets are very, very heavy, even if they are made for kids. Sometimes you have I will attach a video of also how you could do it. You have not blankets, but you have like bed sheets that they can have that you can put a blanket inside, right? And maybe we can put something else heavy, or you can attach two blankets to make it even more heavy. The idea is to have sometimes even a normal blanket, but you roll the kid inside of the blanket, or you put the blanket on the child and you give a big hug. These type of activities also are helpful. Okay, you don't really need to go and say, okay, I need the weighted blanket because this is how it is. But yes, definitely, if there is a possibility that you can buy a proper one, because you have blankets that are depending on the kilograms, they are quite heavy, and the idea is that they provide children for who are very active, with not just hyperactivity but sensory wise very alert. The weighted blankets helps a lot to regulate, to calm down, to give that stability, and that awareness of like, okay, I need to calm down. But again, you can get any blanket, you can just roll the kid, um, give a big, big, big hug with the blanket around him, and see also how does it work. Usually it's very good. I like to say to the parents as well that you can place the blanket, roll the child, and just go and squeeze him a little bit. You can take a therapy ball, or you can take any small ball and go on top, and give like a little deep massage. All of this helps a lot. Mm? as a calming strategy. Now, fidget tools or stress balls. Fidget tools or stress balls, this is something that it's also very common for sensory processing activities because fidgets are everywhere. Every child works with different fidgets, so there is not a particular. Sometimes they want just to have something in their hands, and I can tell you sometimes I will have kids who will come with a cup from a plastic cup, or they will come with leaves or stuff that they pick up on the floor, like there is not something that that it has to be particularly this fidget toy that helps. The most important that you understand that if your child needs that little reinforcer to have something in the hands and have something that he can manipulate with, then we can just buy a couple of them, a couple of fidget toys, small toys, maybe something that you can pull or squeeze, maybe something with a sound, etc., and see which one works the best for you, Uh, so just a question on calming down. How do you calm down a hyperactive child in a shopping mall sitting when he or she only wants to run and run instead of being sitting with the parent? Okay, so that's a very good question. Again, how to control such a situation. So here, obviously, any of the activities that I'm suggesting you would work for you because you are in a shopping mall, no? So the setting depends on this in which setting you are. The certain activities will not work. Here, I will suggest you that you have what it's called weighted vest. Basically, it's a vest, but with weight. This is something that you could use and you could try to use. You can place it under the jacket of the child, so you don't have to. So not everyone needs to see it, or under the shirt or whatever, and it helps for the same like the weighted blanket. It helps a lot to regulate. So you have the weighted vest, which it could be an option for you to have it when you go out. You could before you go for a shopping mall, maybe you go for a walk so the child can run freely and regulate himself before you go, and ask him to be maybe more a little bit less alert. Okay. Or otherwise, you can try to do an activity, a little bit heavy activity, before you go into shopping mall. So if the shopping mall is to go around just for shopping and go around, it's going to be a little bit difficult. But you could, for example, put him on a trampoline to jump for 15-20 minutes before you go out of the house. If you have a peanut ball or a therapy ball, you could put him jumping on the ball before actually you will go out of the house. All right. Or otherwise, if it's shopping because you need to go to supermarket and you are, shopping stuff, I will involve the kid. So it depends on the age of the child. I will ask him like, go and grab the milk or go and take this or whatever. So he is involved in the activities. Maybe he can be pushing, no, the stroller, or maybe he can have a small one for himself and he can be placing stuff. Nowadays, a lot of shopping centers have the one equipped for kids, so he can be entertained. The most important is that for a child who is hyperactive and who receive instruction, listen, you have to sit and wait. This is the same like saying nothing, because the hyperactivity, that's the thing. We want to move, we want to explore everything. It's interesting, everything. It's cool, etc. Depends also on the age. So it is not suggestible to use such strategy. Listen, you have to just to sit and wait. I will definitely use the fact that he wants to run in a functional way. Maybe he can help with the shopping. Maybe he can be helping or having a backpack on his shoulder. So inside of the backpack, we can put the bottle of water. We can be putting some toys or stuff. So he feels that heavy pressure. So when he wants to run, he will get tired easily, because that's the activity. Otherwise, I think the best you can do, if you would like to have a little bit of a chill setting, while shopping, it's to, before you go to the shopping mall, we go to the park, we go to the playground, we go for an open area where he can run, we go on the trampoline, etc., etc. So you tire him up a little bit, we calm him down, he is more regulated, and after maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour, we can go to the shopping mall, and I'm sure you will see a difference. But if you want to make sure that there is not going to be running, you can do that, and then, or have a weighted vest with you, or otherwise a backpack full of stuff, not too heavy, depends on the age, like I'm saying, and on his back. So he is going to be, even if he runs a little bit, like I'm telling you, eventually he will feel a little bit more tired, because it's not the same when we are freely, running around, and when we have actually things to do. But the best is to see how you can entertain him in a functional way, because the sitting and the and being still, it's a very complicated task. So I will definitely use some weights and some entertainment before shopping. Yeah, definitely. We stopped in weighted blankets, fidget tools, and stress balls, or stress balls, which there are different. You have spiky balls, etc. So you can use. You're welcome. You can use any of them. Then we have swinging or rocking activities, which you. There is no way how we can be talking about sensory processing activities if we don't mention swings or rocking activities. So rocking activities depends if the child likes to rock. So I will say that yes, but if not, swinging, any swing, it's good. You don't need to have any particular one, because all the swings have the same functionality, most of them. Okay, unless if you're a therapist, then maybe I will say that you need to have different ones, but at home or when you go to the playground, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have an expensive one. You can take any swing that you have and work on swinging, because that activates balancing, it activates vestibular system, and it helps to regulate. If the child likes to spin around, if the child likes to run around, if the child likes to rock, tiptoeing, etc., comes from vestibular. Okay, so you have to depend on your kid. You will have to use more the swing or less. Okay, sounds or music therapy. Well, we use it music therapy, but you can use any sounds and music that you have at home. So if the child is a little bit more alert, maybe we can put some calming music, and to relax with sensory beans or with the sensory bottle around, etc. No, and the other way around. If the child is too calm and you would like him to be a little bit more alert and so on, maybe we can play different type of music, and we can be doing some swinging, some bouncing, some jumping, etc., etc. So you combine. I like to think about music or music therapy, let's say like that, as a combination with something else. In very few situations, I will be using music just to use music. Most of the time, there is music, and there is or a sensory brush, or a sensory blanket, or there is a sensory maybe, or a fidget toy, but there is something involved, or lights, not just music. And smelling jars. I am adding smelling jars because actually I came across with a really nice box full of activities with smells. And it's crazy because it's like every little jar will have a different smell, and it's really nice. And for example, smell is something that we really think that it's there, and it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really exist. But our nose and our breathing and our smelling, no, the olfactory system has a big impact in our memory. So when you're smelling flowers, it might remind you something. When you're smelling an orange, you are identifying the smell with the orange. It has a lot of impact in memory. So I highly suggest that if it's something that you didn't work or you didn't think about it, that you start introducing in your sensory activities with your kid. Okay, you can make them yourself. You can, for example, work on on fruits, and you just select 3-4 fruits and you ask the child to smell or whatever. We use sometimes we use different aromas as well, something that is a little bit maybe more calming. Sometimes you can combine smell, auditory, and visual, so you have lights, you have music, and you have smell at the same time, which is very nice. And also a nice activity is to do when you ask your child, to close the eyes, so the kid will be remaining with the eyes closed. And if it's very difficult, maybe you can be doing between two. Someone can close the eyes, and you pass the smell under the nose and see how the child reacts. Okay, because sometimes we want to, the child is disturbed or distracted by so many different things that even if you want to work with the smell, the child is not really noticing, what you're doing. So sometimes, or maybe you can switch off the lights, be in a room a little bit more quiet, and just work on the smelling input, which is super, super good. And it's part of the sensory integration, it's part of our senses. And I can tell you, many times we have children who don't know how to blow their nose. They don't know how to use the nose. It's basically like, okay, there is something there, but that's it. So it is really highly suggested to be part of your sensory activities. And that's it. Those are the 10 activities that I will say that they are very basic, easy to do, or easy to find, but they are extremely, extremely helpful when you want to work on certain regulation. Now, like, for example, I got these questions, like I said, then obviously in different settings, you will have to work and implement different strategies. But try to think like that. If we are very active, we have to make sure that the child is involved in a lot of movement in order for him to calm down. And then you can present a calming strategy. If the child is not active and he is the opposite, no, like you really need to push him to do activities, then we have to be doing activities that are really a little bit more in pressure, vestibular, repetitive, etc. And then also implement the calming strategies. You cannot start with calming strategies if your child is calm. Okay, basically. The same, if your child is hyper, you cannot start with calming strategies. We need to first make sure that your child is tired, is more regulated, a little bit focused more, and then we implement calming strategies, because otherwise the child is all over the place and he or she doesn't really understand what I'm doing. What is this sensory bottle? What is this smell? Or whatever, she's trying to do here with me. I want to run, I want to jump, I want to, squeeze the ball, I want to press, whatever. So, yes, I hope that this information was useful to you. I much appreciate if you follow, subscribe the channel, and also on social media. I am also going live and doing different stuff on Twitch. So if you're interested, please check it out. And I will be seeing you next Wednesday. So if you have any question, prepare them, write them. You can write them now, before, after, whatever. And I will see you next Wednesday. So in the meantime, I wish you good night. Okay, because here it's already a little bit late. And thank you for joining, and thank you for watching and for listening. Take care. Bye bye.